It's the highest highs of my life and the lowest lows. It's, one day you're like, this is going to go under. There's just no way I'm going to make this successful. And the next day or the next week, all of a sudden, a couple of calls and people are ordering and you're like, oh, okay,
we're good.
Maybe I got something here.
Hey there, welcome back to Above and Beyond, where excellence meets elevation. I'm your host, Jan Simon, and this season we're raising the bar, diving into the passion, purpose, and defining moments of leaders who don't just aim high, they live there. Big ideas, real stories. Let's get into it. Today's guest is a guy who's lived a life powered by determination, curiosity, and one seriously impressive career pivot. Born and raised in Toledo, Ohio, he kicked things off at St. John's Jesuit before spending 2 years exploring Canada while attending Trent University. He later graduated from the University of Toledo with a business degree, eventually becoming a Six Sigma Green Belt and lean manufacturing expert. With 26 years of transportation and logistics leadership, operations, project management, strategic development, you'd think he'd settle into corporate life, but nope. After moving to Arizona in 2000, he flipped the script and bet on himself, taking the entire toolbox of experience into entrepreneurship. Today, he's the president of AIS Enterprises, and he is the proud owner of Speed Pro Mesa Gilbert, where he specializes in premium large format graphics that help businesses literally stand out. He's been married to Mary Jane for 41 years, is a proud dad to his daughter Kristen, and shares his home with two lovable labs, Sydney and Shelby. When he's not helping companies elevate their brand visuals, you'll find him grilling, brewing, riding motorcycles, traveling to any beach he can find, cheering on the Buckeyes, or volunteering at Midwest Food Bank. He credits his success in surrounding himself with experts and motivating people to rise to their best. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Reber.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry that you're a Buckeyes fan.
Well, yeah.
How are they doing this year? I haven't even paid attention.
We can't all be winners.
Oh, are they winning?
I think that they're doing pretty good this year. Yeah, but we still have a tough one coming up.
Yeah.
The one that we worried about is same as last year. National champions, but we lost against Michigan. And it almost took all of the greatness, I guess, or the excitement out of being a national champion. I mean, it's almost to that point where that rivalry is so important. It's like I'd almost want to lose every other game out there, but as long as we beat Michigan, we're good to go.
Now, is it the same with Michigan State or just Michigan?
Just Michigan.
Okay.
Yep. Just been a huge rivalry. They're about an hour and a half apart from each other.
Oh, okay, so they're close.
Maybe 2 hours, but
okay.
It kind of depends on where you're coming from. But for me, out of Toledo, it was only about an hour away. So,
okay.
Yeah.
O-H. So, grew up in Ohio. Is that where Dunder Mifflin is?
Dunder Mifflin. Drew a blank there.
The Office.
Oh, yeah.
Paper. Aren't they like Scranton, Ohio or something?
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so you grew up in Ohio. What was that like? Tell me about your family, about little Eric.
Yeah, so, Midwestern town, grew up there. All of our family, both dad's side and mom's side, we're all in Ohio to start with. And now, over time, people have kind of separated out and they're kind of all over the country. But it was... we had my sister and myself, parents, kind of the proverbial nucleus family so grew up in Toledo. I was born and raised there. We stayed in Toledo, but moved around a couple of times, but never moved out of Toledo.
Is Toledo a big city?
No. Okay. So Toledo is about 250,000.
So about the same size as Gilbert if you strip everything else away.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. And where exactly is Toledo in Ohio? I should probably know this, but I don't.
Yeah, so we're up on the northwest, not corner, but we're up in that northwest side. So if you look at Lake Erie, right where it ends as far west as it goes, that's where we're located.
Oh, okay.
Right there, almost right on the border of Michigan.
Nice.
And I think that's why we have that rivalry, because...
Right.
Toledo's like half the people in Toledo are Michigan fans and the other half are Ohio State fans. And I wish the Michigan fans would just go across the border.
Just go away.
Yeah, it's like, why
are you
Ohio?
Here? Yeah. If you're such a big Michigan fan, why are you here?
Exactly.
Is it as inexpensive to drink in Ohio as it is in Wisconsin?
No. So there were a lot, like when I grew up, there were state stores for liquor. You could get beer at the carryout and whatnot. I grew up in the age of low beer. I don't know if you remember low beer. It was like the 1.8% or something like that. And you could sell that to 18-year-olds. And so that was kind of my high school.
And I think we called that near beer.
Okay.
Near beer. I think that's what we called it, but I don't remember.
Near regular beer.
Near beer.
Not quite there.
Not really a real beer, but almost.
Exactly.
You could probably drink 50 of them and not get a buzz.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and you had a sister. Mm-hmm. What'd your parents do?
So my mom was she was an educator. She started out as a teacher and then went into special ed. And
it explains a lot.
Right? She had to deal with me, I think. But no, and then my dad was in the mental health industry. So he started out as a social worker and then moved into actually running East Center for Community Mental Health at one point, and then went out on his own and had his own practice as a personal and marriage counselor.
Very cool. Very cool. And your sister, does she live in Ohio still?
No, she's actually in Texas now, right outside of Dallas.
Oh, wow.
We're about 3 years apart. She's younger than me. And so she ended up, she became kind of the world traveler, if you will. She ended up working for a design. She graduated from the University of Cincinnati in design and ended up with a firm that did interior design for Hyatt hotels all over the world.
Oh, wow.
So they were sending her all over to look at, and help with the design on these hotels. And she just fell in love with the travel part of it. And she's like, I do work, and then I have to come right home. And so she quit that and ended up going back and getting a degree in teaching English to foreign students.
Oh, wow.
And so spent about 20 years or so traveling all around from South Korea to Turkey to...
How cool is that?
You name it. Spain, Europe, all over the place. So she's definitely a world traveler. But
that's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Did you play sports growing up?
No. So I came from a family. I did play a little bit, but my family and all of our relatives were not big sports people. So I wasn't surrounded, I guess, by a lot of that. Mm-hmm. It was more like friends that I had, in elementary and then in junior high that said, hey, I'm going to play, football over at the YMCA. Do you want to come? And I'm like, sure. So I'd go, but there wasn't a lot of support for it.
Gotcha.
So I dabbled though in just about every sport: basketball, baseball, football, but never. Once high school hit, I just never got to that point of really pursuing it any further.
Gotcha.
In that realm.
So you were choir and theater?
So yeah, I was a pretty much choir boy. No.
Played the clarinet.
Exactly.
First chair.
I look back on it now, and it's like, I do enjoy, a lot of different sports, watching sports. I did participate in, college and a lot of intramural type stuff, but just never really was, I guess, a dedicated or somebody who picked up on a particular sport and said, yeah, I'm going to be, top notch at football or at baseball or something along those lines. So
coming out of high school and going into college, did you go straight from high school to college?
I did. So back up a little bit. So I went out of elementary school, went to junior high, and I ended up getting into a lot of mischief, a lot of trouble.
Oh.
And so it was at that point where my parents said, instead of sending you to a public high school, we're going to send you to a Jesuit Catholic school. And we weren't Catholic. And we still aren't.
Explain what that is, because I don't know that I actually know what that... I know what a Catholic school is, but what's the Jesuit side of it?
So the Jesuit's kind of another step up on the Catholic side of it. So more strict, absolutely.
Your skirt didn't go past, had to be down to your knees?
No, this is all priests. Oh, yeah. And it was an all-boys school.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just was...
So like Good Will Hunting.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I was completely pissed off, at parents for this move. Yeah. I'm like, what on earth are you thinking? This is my prime.
Did you have to go away for it?
No, it was still in Toledo.
It was there. Okay.
Rode the bus, went to school. They had everything that a normal school would have, other than it was really concentrated on as a college prep school. And the idea they thought was really to get me back in line again with kind of, all right, let's come out of this getting in trouble and hanging around the wrong people, and let's get you straightened out. I look back on it now, and it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
Really?
Yeah. I started out as a freshman, and I think I had like straight D's.
Oh, wow.
And then sophomore C's, so on. Senior, straight A's.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, it did kind of put me on the straight and narrow, which, I attribute a lot of my success to that move. But at the time, you look back and you're like, oh my God, you're killing my social life here,
Oh, yeah.
and things been.
Did you do all 4 years at that same school?
I did all 4 years at that same school.
And then I'm going to not necessarily reference specific movies, but because I've only watched movies and that's what I'm relating this to, were there girl Catholic schools that you guys did like your dances with and stuff?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So we had several girl Catholic schools, and they would get together, do dances and things along those lines. So yes, but it just wasn't, you're not intertwined in a co-ed environment on a regular basis.
Did they have dorms on campus where people came in and actually lived on campus, or was it
only the Jesuits? So they had their own quarters, and they lived actually on campus.
No kidding.
Yeah, and so they, they'd come in, they'd teach, do their thing, and then,
And they were like priests and monks and stuff like that?
Yeah, priests, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was very interesting.
Interesting.
Especially not being Catholic and raised as a Catholic. So a lot of it was, you had to take a class in religion, Catholic, each year. And so as not being raised a Catholic, it was kind of eye-opening in terms of being exposed to that, which was very different. But we'd go to Mass and, it was just, it was an interesting time.
Was there anybody while you were there in high school, whether a student or a teacher or preacher? I think there's a joke there or something. But anyways, was anybody there that kind of had an impact on correcting you or guiding you? Because you went from D's to A's.
Yep.
Did you do that all on your own? Because it's like you're like, oh, I guess I should actually apply myself, or did somebody kind of sit you down with a ruler in your knuckles and say, straighten up?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of, over the years, every priest that was there and teaching that kind of had that impact, look further out than what it is today. What are you going to do in the future? It was all college prep, so they talked about college all the time. Let's start thinking about, what is it that you want to do? But I did have an English teacher my freshman year that was kind of, I remember having a couple meetings with him and sitting down in the cafeteria and talking about, here's where you're at, what is it that you're looking for, and kind of guiding me a little bit in that realm as well. But, I think overall my dad was probably the biggest influence, on trying to, focus my attention back to, again, what are you going to do when you grow up type thing. So
pull you out of your pissed offness.
Yes.
So we know you don't make changes quickly, right? 4 years it took you to get better. Okay, so you graduate high school.
Yep.
With what goes D, B, D, C, B, A? What was that, 2.5?
I don't know. That's like the alphabet backwards or something. Yeah, it would end up like a 2.8 or something. Or 2.7.
And then from there, you ran off to the Great White North.
Yep. So another kind of a lengthy story, but my parents actually owned a cottage up in Canada.
Oh, wow.
And it was on a lake called Rice Lake. It was about an hour and a half northeast of Toronto.
Okay.
And it started out with my uncle owned a cottage on that same lake, and my dad's uncle, I take that back. And we would go up there every year for 2 weeks. That was our summer vacation. And so they would typically bring another family. We'd bring up another family, friends. We'd go up there. We'd spend 2 weeks fishing and skiing and all that.
Amazing what memories there.
That started out since I was like 1. I mean, it went on for a long time. So a lot of great memories up there. Well, when I turned about 15, they decided to purchase their own cottage on that same lake.
Oh, very cool.
And my mom, being in the educational industry or in education, it worked out perfect because for my sister and myself and my mom, we would go up there for the entire summer. And that was kind of our whole, basically, summer break. And then my dad would come up every couple of weeks or so, come up for a week or two, and then he'd go back for 3 or 4, and then we'd come up for a week or two. But that was our summer, and we did that all through junior high and in through high school, and it was just the greatest, being on a lake like that, and, the biggest town was like 500 people.
Yeah.
It was just...
it's the adventure.
It was the adventure. It was really unique.
It's funny. Have you watched Stranger Things?
No.
So Netflix shows Stranger Things. I think they're about to release season 5. Not that I'm, if Stranger Things wants to no, I'm just kidding. So whenever I start talking about stuff like that, right, your childhood, you're a couple years older than me, but I think about, and Stranger Things is actually in the 80s. So it's right about probably that time.
Absolutely.
I mean, you were probably 40 at that point, but so, but it's at that point where you start seeing that stuff. But I think about, I had a really good friend who had his parents have a lake cabin, or had a lake cabin. His brother now owns it, but we spent tons of time up there in the summer, and the number of memories of just doing stupid stuff or fun stuff, or, I mean, whatever, late nights. I mean, things want to come out my mouth that's not going to, to be incriminating. But we did some fun stuff there. But so it's funny because I'm sitting here and I'm vicariously thinking about how amazing that would be to have, a lake cabin. Even, we had on Lake Wenatchee, my grandparents had a cabin, no running water, it had a little spring that there was a metal pipe. You go up to the metal pipe and fill up a bucket of, water or whatever, take it back to the house, and there's an outhouse. And I remember one time we're sitting, it was night. Anyways, and I was young. I probably was 6, 7, 8 years old. I don't know. But all of a sudden you hear my mom outside yelling, "Greg!" It was my dad. "Greg! Greg!" Well, she had gone in to use the outhouse and the floor broke out from so she's like pressing herself against the wall, holding herself up. Anyways, there was a lot of great memories up there. But as you go up there now, it doesn't even look anything the same. It's very developed. And so... Yeah.
No, it was kind of the same situation. We had the outhouse. We did have running water, but it came out of a well.
Oh, okay.
So we had a pump down in the well, and you had to be careful when you invited a lot of family up, because all of a sudden the well would go dry.
Oh,
and then you're like, oh boy, now what?
You sit and wait.
So it's like we got to wait till that fills up again. So it was kind of like limiting, different things. And unfortunately, they had like the shower and everything was hooked up through that versus through the lake. So you always had to be kind of careful of that. But
very cool.
No, you're right. It was there was all kinds of mischief to get into. I mean, the fortunate thing when we moved up there, so Rice Lake is like 21 miles long.
Wow.
And it's like a mile across. We were at the widest point.
Is it a reservoir behind something, or is it just an actual lake?
No, what's interesting is it's all interconnected to all of the Great Lakes.
Oh, okay.
So you could actually we could actually leave like Toledo, Ohio, and jump onto the Maumee River, which empties out into Lake Erie, and take a boat up through Lake Ontario, and then connect up through the locks.
Oh, wow.
Which take you all the way up, and you could actually take a boat to the cottage.
No
it'd
kidding.
be a long trip.
Yeah.
And we never did that, but there were a lot of people that actually, that would be their kind of summer vacation. They would have big yachts and whatnot that would come through the lakes, and they just go through all these locks, and then they end up in Lake Superior. And
that would be so
yeah.
cool.
It'd be a neat one to try one day, but
21 miles. That's crazy big.
Yeah, and the thing was, at the time when they bought, so we were on this little cove called Sunset Bay, and on this cove was probably I'm going to say like 30 or 40 cottages, and at the time when they bought, there were especially the weekends. So again, the majority of the cottage owners up there were Canadians. So they're working during the week, and then on the weekends they come up and they spend.
Was it the same over there? So sorry to cut you off. I'll let you finish your story. I lived in northeastern Washington, 45 minutes south of the Canadian border. We were always up in Canada for swim meets. It was like that's where we went for our swim meets. Sunday, everything was closed. Was it the same up there?
Same up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like Sunday, nothing was open in Canada.
Absolutely. And but it was neat because of the fact that when they purchased, the families that were up there, there was a gang of kids that would come up on the weekends, and when everyone was up there, there were probably like 30 of us.
Wow.
No kidding, that were between, maybe 4 years apart. And we all kind of hung out together and caused, all kinds of havoc. And it was just, it was really phenomenal. So timing was perfect. And a lot of really good memories.
Obviously, probably like the little innocent summer romances and all the little things that go along with it. And
yeah, it's actually where I met my wife, Mary Jane.
No kidding.
Was up there. And
okay.
So we kind of dated on and off through high school, kind of did the summer romance, and then we come back and, split up and whatnot. We graduated, though, at the same time. And so I convinced my parents to say, hey, after high school, how about I go to school for 2 years up in Canada? And It took a lot of convincing,
Mm-hmm.
but ended up doing that. And that party level at the cottage kind of went up about 25.
I can only imagine.
Yes. And so, again, getting introduced to Canadian beer, and I had 2 years of a really, really good time. And then again, I was only an hour away from the cottage.
Wow.
So I would take all these guys and friends from school.
Just
And
go
it's
to
like,
college.
dude, the cottage is open. Let's go. Bring the food. And so, yeah, we'd get the boat out. We'd go skiing. I mean, just had a ball.
That's awesome.
And but after 2 years of then going from A's back down to
D's.
almost D's again,
Hey,
I'm like,
what do they say? A D still gets a degree.
that's right.
So-
That's right. So anyway, we ended up very young and dumb, but I proposed when we were 20 years old. And
wow.
we ended up getting married,
Okay.
got married up there, and then made the decision
So you got married in Canada?
in Canada.
So you're not like legit. You're just, just
Yeah,
kidding.
exactly. That's what I tell her. It was like, well, be
I'll
careful.
I'll send you
this
back.
Really isn't legit, right? So I'm not sure what you can get out of this deal if it goes south. But
Send you back. It's too late now.
yeah. So we ended up moving back down to Ohio because the opportunities at that time were better for her to find employment and work down here than it was for me to go and work
Oh, gotcha.
up there.
Okay.
That was kind of the big decision. So we moved back down to Toledo and then finished our degrees at the University of Toledo. She went in early childhood education, got her master's degree, and then I just worked on my business degree from that point.
Gotcha. So you're back in Toledo, going to college, graduate college, and you go into transportation.
Yeah, so during, here we are, we're married, we're trying to live in an apartment. Yeah, we left Canada with a two-door, and this takes you way back, Dodge Colt, 4-speed, no air,
You
hatchback.
didn't need air up there.
And
It's always cold.
we had everything that we owned was in that car.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, clothes, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we had no furniture, nothing. And
Right.
so it was kind of a rough start, and I look back now and tell people, yeah, the odds of this all working out were very slim. But somehow, some way, we made it work.
Nice.
So anyway, moved back down, and a couple years in, going to school at University of Toledo, I took a job working for UPS.
Okay.
And it was Christmas help, got hired on for Christmas, when their big boom is. Unloaded trailers, not a real glamorous job. It was a part-time job.
Work.
Did that along with several other things, and got laid off right before, which they typically do with seasonal help, laid off right before Christmas. I got called back in January. So I went back to work with them part-time again, unloading trailers. And a couple months in, my supervisor at the time said, hey, you were telling me you were going to school, University of Toledo, for a business degree. You should apply for supervisor training school with UPS. And I was like, oh, okay, let's do it. I thought, well, if I graduate, at least I've got some experience maybe on leadership, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
supervisor manager skills. So I did that, applied, and got accepted and became a part-time supervisor. So it worked out well because it was 5 hours a day. It was in the evenings. And so I could go to school full-time and then go doing this job. And it was just Monday through Friday. So the weekends off and everything. And that's kind of what led me into the start of my career. So I was just fascinated with, I love the fact that it's very high-paced. And we worked at a hub in Toledo where, you've got X number of trucks, 80, 90, 100 trucks coming in from all over the country.
Wow.
And you've got a time frame of a couple, 3 hours to unload all these trucks with a couple, 300 people and get it sorted and then back on trucks and then back out of the hub in Toledo. So it wasn't a lot of air work as far as aircraft are concerned, but it was more ground. And that was kind of right at the time when, you saw companies like UPS and DHL, whatnot, starting to grow in there. So did that and then graduated, and they said, do you want to go full time? And I'm like, sure. And so, started going through with full time. It was about a year later that there was another company out of Fort Wayne, Indiana called Burlington Air Express.
Okay.
And they I found it out through the papers that they were actually going to build a state-of-the-art air hub at our airport in Toledo.
Oh, wow.
And the thing about UPS, UPS is a great company to work for. The problem is I didn't see a lot of room for creativity. And I kind of thrive on creativity and solutions and coming up with new ways of doing things, ideas. They had, umpteen thousand engineers that would sit there and time things and figure out this is exactly how long, it should take to do this and that. So I took that opportunity and I jumped ship and ended up over at Burlington Air Express. And this was, back in 1990. And so ended up starting with them and moved up very quickly in their operations just because of the fact that, I had all this experience and knowledge from UPS. So used that to kind of grow with them and yeah.
And how long were you with them?
So I was with them for 26 years.
Wow.
And so, I'm sorry, for 20 years. It was 6 years with UPS and then 20 years with them.
Okay.
So through that time when I was with them, through 10 years, the first 10 years, 9 years, I went into operations, worked my way up through hub operations, and then started a new department that was called capacity planning and contingency.
Okay.
So hired on several employees. And our job was to really look at, our whole system network. We had 600 truck routes and about 36 aircraft flying around North America. It's to look at that from an overall, 40,000 foot level and figure out what was working best on a day-to-day basis for the company. So we might have overages that were coming out of, let's say, Phoenix or LA, and we might say, okay, well, we're going to move some of this early freight down to San Diego or whatnot. So it was like a giant puzzle. We just moved freight around. And this was where, again, all those solutions, coming up with quick solutions on a fast time basis, where we were trying to balance both transportation cost to the company, as well as service level.
Yeah.
So we you can only do so much in each one. If you try to get to 100% service, you can do that, but we'll go bankrupt really quick because we're going to spend too much money on recovery aircraft, trucks, et cetera. So it was a huge balance in there of trying to do that. And that's what we did. And then that started out in 98, and then in 2000, they came and said, hey, we want to move your whole group to Phoenix. And I'm like, okay. Oh. Took the group, and we had about 2/3 of the folks at that time who decided to make that move. The other ones we stayed back in Toledo, and we found them jobs within the hub itself, and then moved those folks out here. The timing was good for me. And my family. So my daughter, Kristen, as you mentioned before, was 5 at the time.
Okay.
And Mary Jane, my wife, had stayed home for those first 5 years.
Gotcha.
When, she just wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and so we worked that out. So she hadn't gone back to school yet, and all of a sudden this opportunity presents itself.
Yeah.
And
so you don't have to unplug from a bunch of places; you just kind of unplug from one place.
Exactly. And then you go back to like Canada. I mean, we were there always in the summertime. We did not. Both of us didn't like winter at all. I mean, we're not winter people. Downhill skiing out, snowmobile out. I just can't stand it. And so we were always about wanting to be, on the beach, or, we would vacation down in Florida. We always wanted to be kind of in that warm weather. So we would hibernate in Ohio in the wintertime in the basement, and then pop our heads up in the springtime. I go, oh, look, it's warming up. All right, let's get the boat out. Let's do all the, the fun summer stuff. So, when the opportunity for Phoenix came up, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Got to be hot. Let's go. We love the heat. And so we made that move.
And you've been here ever since?
Yeah. So we moved here in 2000. A quick, interesting story. So when they brought up the idea of moving here, that was towards the end of the summer of 99. And so they sent my wife and I out here like 3 different times to house hunt. And I think the first one was like November.
Okay.
So we come out from Ohio in November, right when it's starting to turn gray. There's like no more, all the leaves are gone. I mean, fall has already passed by. Now it's starting to get cold. And then the next one, was like January. I think the final one was in March. And every time we come out here, it's just like, oh, this is it. This is it. And so we, find a place and whatnot. And then we moved on August 1st of 2000.
Oh, God.
And I swore to God that we were... When the plane landed, I was like, this is not Phoenix.
You stepped off. You're like, what the hell?
Are we in freaking Death Valley? Or like, where did we end up here? So, we got that huge experience, especially with a 5-year-old and a dog to try and understand, what the things are to do and not do at that time. So
that's funny. When you were kind of still in college, started working for UPS, In that introductory period into corporate America, we'll call it, were there people in that world that, we'll say, mentored you along?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's one person, that I could put my finger on to say, it was this particular person, but it was just a lot of, surrounding yourself with the good people. You talked about sports earlier, and, I didn't do a lot of sports, but I'm very competitive, especially work-wise. I want to be that guy that does really well. Mm-hmm. My goal as a supervisor back in UPS it was kind of divided up in the hub where they had 14 different what they called PDs, and this was like on the outbound. So all the freight would be distributed based on where those trucks were going on those different PDs. And so my goal was to be, the number one out of 14. And, I got to that level, and it was surrounding myself and asking those questions to some of those managers, et cetera, at that time. What do I need to do? What do I should focus on? What should I not be doing? And it was through that really helped develop me, I think, into being, a good leader and who I am today. And then through Burlington Air Express, the same thing. It's just surrounding yourself and identifying those individuals that you work with that are successful or are good leaders and good people.
Yeah.
And I continue to do that today. I just want to be around the folks that are committed, that are willing to help, that are the ones that are doing well in their business, that are willing to say, hey, you need some help, give me a shout. And so I try to take my experience and do exactly that same thing.
Yeah. You came to Arizona working in logistics. I think that's what you call it, right? Logistics.
And transportation logistics, yeah.
And then what happened? At some point you just kind of went, I'm done with this world, and...
Well, I kind of got forced into that.
Hardcore pivot.
Yeah. So in 2005, our company got bought out.
Don't pay attention.
You're good. 2005, our company got bought out by a European company called Deutsche Bahn. And Deutsche Bahn is actually one of the bigger conglomerates of transportation in Europe. There's another one that's called Deutsche Post. Deutsche Bahn bought us, though, and there was actually a subsidiary of theirs that bought us out. The subsidiary was called Schenker, and they were into, you've seen the big cargo ships that, go out in the ocean and whatnot, ocean freight, what we called it. They were big there, but they were very small in terms of their presence in North America. At that time, we were trying to become very worldwide. We had like 280 offices around the world.
Wow.
But they were very small. I mean, really small. And we'd have one or two people working there, and that was it. So when we looked at the integration between the two, it looked like a really good fit for both of our organizations, and started out that way. Well, down the road, it became evident that they were more so interested only in our international business, meaning that they were interested in companies that we actually worked with that would ship international freight. They may ship domestic freight, in North America as well, but they wanted the international because there's a higher margin out there on that type of freight than there is on the domestic side of it. So from 2005 through, 2011, they slowly started downsizing all of our operations in North America to the tune of we laid off over 10,000 people in 6 years. In 2010, I had laid off. We'd pretty much grounded all of the aircraft at that point. We were only doing brokerage type moves out. Same thing with the trucking. We had very few routes that were operating still. A lot of that stuff, again, we were just brokering it out and, jumping on somebody else's trucks or whatever. So in 2010, I pretty much had nothing for my team to do at that point. So I laid off my whole staff and then was kind of on special assignment at that point, which meant... And I had 20 years in with the company at that point, and I kind of made the decision, look, there's going to be a pretty decent severance coming out of this if I stick around. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to stick around because, it was a very frustrating time. I mean, it's, again, being from the Midwest, and I don't want to say this is all Midwest, but I kind of had that mindset that I'm going to start working for one company and I'm going to retire with that company, and didn't think about or look for opportunities to move on. It was always just opportunities to move up within the organization constantly. So it wasn't until this time and over that year where I was on special assignment, running around because they weren't sure if they were going to keep me around or what I'd be doing if I was kept around. I really had a lot of time to reflect. And that was kind of like, is this rat race something that I want to continue with for, let's say, the second half of my career?
Yeah.
Or is it something different? So I made the decision, and the time, I was high enough up in the organization that I knew like the day that it was going to happen, et cetera. And they came into the service center in Phoenix and laid off 200 people that day. And I mean, there's tears and everything else. And I was probably the only one that had a big smile on my face because I was like, I can't wait to get out of this. I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I left there and took several months off, just trying to regroup and figure out. I decided I did not want to go back into transportation, but thought I'll probably go into something that's going to be, maybe in manufacturing, something in operations. That's where my skill set was. That's where I really enjoyed working, and coming up with those solutions, which lean management, Six Sigma, helped me a lot in terms of looking at that. So interviewed with several companies, but just it always seemed like I'm taking a step backwards. Well, you might have to work weekends. Well, you might have to work some nights. And, you're going back to 2 weeks vacation. And I'm like, this is, not me. And so through that time frame, I got introduced to a broker for franchises, which the first thought out of my mind was McDonald's. And I'm like, not a chance in hell do I ever want kids 24/7, turnover, no thank you, right? And so it was about a month later, I met back up with this gentleman, and he introduced me to Speed Pro. And what was interesting at the time, Speed Pro's corporate office was up in Scottsdale. Since that time, they've moved up to Denver, Colorado. Okay. But at least I had that opportunity where I could just drive up. And we're a nationwide company. The franchise actually started up in Canada and then migrated down to the States and started up in Texas. And then now we're pretty much covering most of the U.S. and all the major cities. And so I had that opportunity to go up there and meet with them several times. Well, there was and we call them studios versus print shops, whole nother story there. But there was one that was up in North Scottsdale, and I actually had the opportunity to go up and meet with that owner. Lo and behold, and this was before I made the purchase, lo and behold, this owner, I said, well, what's your background? Printing, design, what is it? No, I worked for DHL for 20 years.
Oh, you're like,
interesting.
Let's talk about this.
So going backwards, DHL actually got bought out by Deutsche Post 5-6 years before it happened to us. Okay. And so today you'll still see DHL running around, but it's all international freight. There's no domestic freight movement.
And say they got really big domestically, and then they just disappeared.
Exactly. So we ended up actually hiring several of those people. So it was kind of that I was like, well, that's interesting. And it was, talking to Speed Pro where, their business model is that you as the owner are, kind of going to be the sales, marketing face of the company. And then you hire the experts to do design work, which I can't draw a stick figure to save my life. Yeah. Run the machines, which, again, I can barely put paper in my own printer at home. And then do the installations, which, again, I have no, experience on that side of it.
Now, I've seen you do some installations, so I think you do fairly well.
Once in a while, I get the logos right side up instead of upside down, but not very often. So, most of my guys will tell me, just, go out and sell. Don't stay here in the office. Go out and sell.
My job. Let me do my job. Rewinding back, with regards to the transportation stuff, I mean, you're laying off massive amounts of people. That has just got to be heavy. I mean, I can't even imagine having been on this situation where you've got to let somebody go. It's rough, right? Because you try not to take it personally. It's like, okay, the business has to make this decision. I got to make it. How do you, put that in the filing cabinet and not let it impact you emotionally, or did it impact you emotionally?
I would say and when I look back at my career, that was probably the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. I've let people go, and typically, they know, it's for performance issues, and we've talked about it, and we've tried to, coach them in the right direction to better perform. And when the day comes and you got to let them go, I mean, they know that's coming. With a layoff, we couldn't say a word. I mean, you had to keep it to where they knew nothing. So on those days, I remember coming in and I'd have one at a time. They'd come in the office and we had human resource in there, and it would be like, yep, today's your last day. And, here's a box and fill it up, and, tears rolled. And I think the part too, that really hurt me was there was quite a few families that I brought from Toledo that made the move with me.
Yeah.
And I had to let them go. And I look back now and think, that's probably the hardest thing that I've ever had to do.
Yeah.
Was to lay off really good people.
Yeah.
That just caught up in this thing.
Yeah.
And I still feel it today. And it's just it's a hard thing to do. But yeah, I hope to never have to go through that type of a layoff again. And today, when I make decisions about hiring people, obviously it's on a much smaller scale, owning your own business. But I take that very personally. That that's going to be my responsibility to make sure I take care of this person.
They kind of become family.
Absolutely.
So you started Speed Pro. What year was that?
So bought the franchise in 2012.
Okay.
It was in March of 2012. We didn't open our doors until December of 2012. And then the difference was we had to find a location, number one.
Okay.
Where are we going to open up this shop studio to do the printing and whatnot. And so that was kind of a difficult thing. And then once we found a place, then we had to do a build out so that we had the capabilities of being able to house all of our printers and all the equipment that we needed, as well as have a warehouse area that we could do vehicle graphics as well. So we do commercial vehicle graphics are a big piece of our business.
Are you seeing less and less of the vehicle graphics?
No.
Still a lot?
What we're seeing less of is when I first started 12 years ago, 13 years ago, there were a lot more full wraps that were happening. So when the trade, and again, we just do B2C. So it's all pretty much, the trades or people with fleets of vehicles. And at that time, they were doing full wraps. That was the route to go. And you made them as loud and as obnoxious as you could. Mm-hmm. So that was the thought process that you'll be remembered.
Yeah.
Today, I think we do maybe 1 or 2% is full wraps.
Full wraps.
So we do smaller. So I like to refer to it as vehicle graphics versus wraps, because wraps kind of gives that insinuation that, I'm wrapping a present or a package and I'm doing the whole thing, which we don't do very much of that anymore.
Okay.
We found ways that we can...
Like tailgates and doors and things like that.
Tailgates and doors, or that we can just spread those graphics out all over the vehicle without doing maybe a design in the background,
Gotcha.
which would require a full wrap on there.
Gotcha.
And we can still get that same visibility and that same recall, that's kind of the important part about those, is that, the designers that I work with all have marketing and advertising degrees or portions of degrees along with the design.
Okay.
So the purpose being that you may see, a vehicle for air conditioning and you're like, well, my air conditioning is running fine. I don't need their help. Mm-hmm. When it goes out or it's time to replace an air conditioner, our objective is, or our intent is, that you will remember who that was.
Gotcha.
Through branding, through marketing, through those graphics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How many different franchises did you contemplate before you landed on Speed Pro?
Good question. Not very many.
Really?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So the process that you go through with the broker is that, they ask you like 200 or so questions about your background, about what you like, what you dislike, in order to, what I call, kind of fit you into a cookie cutter. Mm-hmm. So there may be, there's people out there that are great in healthcare. There's people that are out there that are great in, using their hands and doing things. So the idea, though, is to match you up with a franchise that the franchise has said, okay, our owners need to look like this. And so they work with going in and looking at maybe the top 5 to 10 owners of one of those franchises and saying, oh, what are the skill sets that these people have? What's their backgrounds? And then taking that and making that into kind of this cookie cutter, so that when they come out and you answer those questions, they bring it over and say, hey, I think this is going to be a good fit, which is good for, again, your success as well as the franchise's success. I mean, they don't want to hire and sell franchises to people that are going to fail, right? So that's kind of the process that I went through in order to get there. And then I think with that introduction, as I mentioned earlier, to that studio that was up in North Scottsdale, it was just like, man, if one dumb logistics guy running around, sorting brown freight, brown packages can do this, then maybe 2 can. So it just kind of, the moons fell in alignment and, said. The other is that they work real hard at making sure that you vet them appropriately.
Gotcha.
So they give you the documentation to show the history, to show you what's all in the contract, as well as giving you phone numbers to many of the owners, current owners. So I made, I think maybe like 10 or 15 phone calls out to owners all over the country. It's like, hey, I'm looking at this as an opportunity. What got you into it? What do you like about it? What do you dislike? And at the time, I'm finding pretty much the same situation. It was either people that had been, displaced from a job, such as myself, that were, hey, it's too early to retire. I'm not ready yet. I need something else. What am I going to do? It was people that had retired early. So maybe it started, in government or whatever at 20 or something. And then all of a sudden, now I'm 20 or 40, 45, and I need something else. And so the makeup, though, was interesting that there was all kinds of different backgrounds of these owners, but none of them were in printing and graphic.
Before they went into Speed
Pro.
Interesting.
So it was kind of like, again, that whole concept was, and their thought process behind it was, we don't want owners that have print background and design background, because what we've seen is that they will stay in the studio, in the shop, doing that work versus staying out.
Gotcha.
And going out there and networking and, doing the sales and things like that. So I'm like, well, that's a good fit, because I know nothing about doing all this other stuff. So
has there been a time since you opened the doors where you've questioned your sanity in actually doing it?
Oh my God. I think I'm doing it right now. No. Oh, absolutely. I tell people, I get asked, what's it like being, an owner? I'm sure you get asked the same question. And you're like, I could tell people, honestly, it's the highest highs of my life and the lowest lows. It's, one day you're like, this is going to go under. There's just no way I'm going to make this successful. And the next day or the next week, all of a sudden, a couple of calls and people are ordering, and you're like, oh, okay,
doing good.
Maybe I got something here.
Just made the biggest sale of my life.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's those waves that, and I tell people today, it still impacts you, when you get a slow month or a slow couple of months, but now you're kind of more used to the fact that it will come back.
Yeah.
And it will, we typically are very strong in the summer times, and this summer we were just, really slow.
Oh, really?
And all of a sudden now the spring or the fall hits, and we're, just overwhelmed right now with work.
I think the thing that helped me, because those managing those highs and lows is the toughest thing about owning a business. There have been a few times where I'm like, how am I going to break to Christine that we're just, I failed, type of thing. I'll just hold on, just focus. And I always tell myself, I've got written on my whiteboard at home, focus on the process, not the outcome. The process will take care of the outcome. And so it's that whole, what is it that's going to get me where I need to be? Well, talking to more people, asking for more business, that sort of thing. But managing those highs and lows, what really helped me was getting to the point where it's like, okay, there's enough money in the bank to float me for X number of months.
Yes.
Without having to think about it. So if I don't do anything, the shit really hits the fan, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And that has gotten me to the point where I go, yeah, it was a down month, but we'll come back.
Yeah.
We'll be okay. And we'll build that buffer back up, but man, I'll tell you, is that trying to explain to somebody, like I've had stressful moments in my life, but man, when you're looking at like the checkbook and you're like, how am I going to do this? I can't do payroll on a credit card.
Right.
It's like, oh, anyways, talk to me about Speed Pro. Tell me about what you guys do.
Yeah.
What makes you different, and why is it called a studio? Is it a studio?
It is called a studio.
And not a shop or whatever.
Yeah, so good question. So it kind of took me aback as well when I first started up with the company, and then their big thing was we want to refer to this as a studio, and I'm like, okay, well, it's a print shop. What's the difference? Mm-hmm. And it's really in the layout. So if you go to any Speed Pro that's in the U.S. or Canada, you'll see that in most print shops when you walk in, there's like a little reception area. There's a counter. You do your ordering or your pickup there. All the machines and the fun stuff are all somewhere in the back. Okay, their thought process was, let's open that all up.
Yeah.
So each of the Speed Pros now has a where you walk in. We typically have high ceilings. It's all open. It's very clean. We have cleaning crews that come in every other week. We expect, our crews to be very clean as well, because we do we want customers to come in and we want to do the 25-cent tour.
Yeah.
Come on back. Let me show you what we're doing. And they could see that, when they walk in, they're like, oh, wow, this is interesting. And so we can show them the printers running, and we can show them the laminators and the cutters and everything that's happening. And it's, again, another way that I think we can bring them into the whole production piece of it, so they feel like they're a part of it.
Yeah.
And they understand more of what's going to take place when we do an order for them. So that's why they kind of refer to it as a studio. It is very unique. Most other print shops, if you will, do not have that same capability, or not same capability, same layout, if you will.
Okay. And with regards to what you do, because it used to be large format graphic, right? Which is no longer, or is it?
No, it still is.
Still, okay.
So yeah, it's all. So I always tell people, think of it this way. We don't do business cards. We don't do flyers. We don't do this, what we refer to as the small print. Okay. There are companies that specialize in that. There's different machines that create that. Our machines are all oversized.
Okay.
So we're designed to do very large banners, wall murals, window graphics, etc. So think about everything on the large scale. That's what we focus on. So customers call us up and they're like, well, can you do some business cards for me? It's like, no, we don't have the capability, but here's where you can go, and we'll refer them out to somebody else. And then it was about 5 years down the line where we had a lot of clients who were looking for exterior signage. So I spent a year going through and investigating that. And probably the biggest headache of exterior signage is permitting. So now we're getting into permitting, where you have to apply through the city or the town, particular one that you're in. You've got to follow different regulations based on those. And so, we started that about 6 years ago, and now, that's part of our portfolio as well, is offering, exterior signage with pan channel,
like monument
LED.
signs and things.
We don't do the construction of the monument signs, but this is more like building signs, wall signs type thing for the exterior.
Okay. Give me an idea of some of your favorite projects that you guys have done. Can you? I mean, with names, so people can kind of visualize, oh, wow, they can do that type of thing.
Yeah, what's interesting is people will ask, what's your perfect client, or who's your perfect, and it really is
somebody with a shitload of money,
boatloads,
and wants
wheelbarrows worth of money. They don't know what to do with it.
Right?
Like, oh yeah,
and everybody's going to see it from really far away, so they can't pick out the little detail.
Exactly. I mean, our clients vary from. I mean, we do a lot of churches, we do a lot of nonprofits, we do a lot of schools, we do a lot of retail, we do everything in the professions, from attorneys to all the trades. So, I mean, there really is nothing that we don't cover. It's just a matter of what. So we'll have attorneys that say, hey, I just need, my name and maybe contact on the exterior door. Perfect. That's all we're going to do. If they ask for something beyond that, I try to educate them in, yes, wrapping all your windows or your vehicle is probably not going to bring a lot of return.
Yeah.
Your vehicle's parked at the office or it's at the courthouse, and that's just not going to be good for you. So that's the other thing that, I'm really focused on solutions. I want to offer a solution that's going to bring that company a return on, finding clients or getting more business as well. So that's a big one for us. But I think some of we had a really nice one in January of this year. We actually were contacted by United Food Bank, and they went through a whole rebranding. And so they came up with new graphics. They have all their design. They have a designer on staff who did all the designs, and they asked us to come in. And so we did about 12, 13 or so 48-foot transportation trailers.
Cool.
There were full wraps. Lots of vehicles, vans, box trucks, etc. Then we went into the office space and started creating graphics within the office or within the distribution center where volunteers will come in. So again, they want to be able to tell a story, right? As a volunteer, when you come in there, you want to know, well, what am I volunteering for? Where is this going? So we had, a map on the wall of Arizona, and here's all the places that they cover.
Cool.
And here's the things, and here's pictures of the families, and here's, here's your why. You talk about your why for business. This is your why for volunteering.
How cool.
And here's the people that you're supporting, for that. And so I really fell in love with that kind of causation that brought, kind of the graphics to why to do something. And again, be able to help represent them really well. So that was a really fun project that we did.
That's cool. Can you guys do beer can labels and stuff like that?
No.
Oh, dang.
No, we don't do a lot of like labeling, if you will. We'll do some small runs of that, but for larger companies, we don't have, again, the right machines to be able to pump that stuff out on a regular basis.
Gotcha.
But, if we have I'll give you a great example is we've got a couple of clients that do garage door repairs, and they'll say, hey, I just want a bunch of labels that when I'm done with the garage door repair, they stick a label on the inside. If something goes wrong with your garage door, you're looking right at it. Same thing with hot water heaters, etc. So we'll do small runs like that. But anything that's outside of that realm, we just don't have the capability of doing it with the equipment we have.
Right. How about wrapping Cardinal Stadium?
That'd be fun, wouldn't it? Yeah, there are definitely things
that's large format
outside of our scope. And especially being in Phoenix, right? People will go downtown and they'll go, oh my gosh, I saw this building wrapped, that was during the Super Bowl or during this, did you guys do that? I'm like, no, that was not us. That's a little out of our realm. We don't have the access or maybe the willingness to get that access to those type of installers that do those types of things. So there are definitely companies out there that are, do a lot of the sports events. There's one here locally in town that's their main focus. They travel all over the world and do everything from Olympics through world events, World Cup, college bowls, you name it. Any of those big things where there's just a boatload of graphics. Gotcha. They have the infrastructure and the people to project manage that thing, which typically will start out like a year and a half, maybe even 2 years in advance.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah, it's pretty complex. So
imagine the amount of ink they go through.
Oh, yeah, it's just astronomical.
Tell me what Eric does in his spare time. What do you do for fun?
Not much anymore. I'm getting too old to do anything fun.
4:30 buffet dinner.
That's right. 4:30 out.
In bed by 6.
Done. If I stay up past 7, it's like a miracle. I don't feel right the next day. Yeah, no, I think right now we like to travel. Again, anything that's got a beach. We are very summer people.
Do you have a favorite place to go right now?
Right now, probably Aruba is our favorite.
Yeah.
We've been there 3 times now, and they call it the Happy Island, and it really is a happy island. I mean, it's just a really neat place. If you ever get the opportunity to go there, I highly recommend it. It's one of the safest places. It's, you can go out middle of the night, walk the streets, feel completely safe out there.
Is it a big island?
No, very small. It's like 20 miles long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can rent a car and hit all the island and the beaches and go snorkeling, whatever you want to do, easily within one day and pretty much be done. But it's a really neat place to go. So anything with beaches, we like doing that. I love to cook. I think that came from my mother. Actually started with my grandmother, was a great cook living on a farm. My mother picked it up and did a lot of cooking. And then as kids, my sister and my mom would set out a recipe. And we would come home from school before she came home from teaching and say, okay, we're having, this chicken dinner tonight, and here's the recipe. I've got all the ingredients. You guys do it.
Wow.
And I mean, we were young.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay. And, it was kind of really interesting to be able to do that and then see, kind of what came out of it and then make, you add your little touches to it here and there. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be very creative as well, which I really enjoy that part of it. So I've always enjoyed cooking, got into, obviously, with summer with grilling and, and then when smokers started coming out, started smoking meats and stuff like that.
A signature dish that you like to do? When you want to impress somebody, you're like, oh, okay, I'm making the...
Yeah. So I like to do pasta with seafood. I'm not a big... fish guy, if you will, but I'm a huge shellfish. So I like to do a lot of things with seafood, crab, things like that. And pasta is a really good mix to do that with. So I do a lot of that. And then on the smoking side, just anything that I could throw on there to smoke, so
Yeah.
I turn that thing on, the dogs start running going, oh, I'm next.
That's funny.
But no, I've always enjoyed that. And then years ago, got into doing microbrewing. And so there was a buddy of mine, the two of us started looking into it and, went out, made some purchases of, the little 5-gallon buckets and started this thing. And again, it's one of those things that can be very creative. You can change recipes, you can add a little bit here, create your own spin on things, and then, try it out and say, yeah, this works, or hey, that's not so good.
How long does it take start to finish to make a batch of beer?
Well, here in Arizona, it's interesting because if you're a home brewer, you can only do it during the fall and the spring. And the reason I say that is because once you brew and get it into a bucket to ferment, it lets off gases. And though, like if you had that inside, it's that fermentation that's going to stink up the whole house.
Oh, wow.
And so you want to keep it in the garage or somewhere else. But if it's too hot or too cold, it won't ferment and do its thing at the right temperature.
Gotcha.
So there's only certain time frames when you can actually do that. But it's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It's not, put it this way, it's not a good way to save money. It's probably costing you twice or three times what it would to go to the store and buy yourself a 6-pack. But it's the fun that's involved in it.
We, Christine's son and I, when I say Christine's son and I, more Christine's son than I, but we've dabbled in making mead. So right now we have a strawberry mead in the refrigerator that's probably ready to drink, and I should actually have some of it. But we've played around with a couple different things, made a few batches of stuff. But he's much better at remembering that it needs to be attended to than I am. And he just takes care of it. So I'm like, hey, do we need to do some of that? So I'm gonna kind of switch gears. I'm gonna just ask you random questions that just kind of, I don't know why, just because I feel like it.
Sounds like trouble.
It could be. Could very well be. But first question I have, easy one. What gets you out of bed in the morning? Besides the dogs have to take them for a walk or feed them or whatever.
Yeah, the barking downstairs. Hey, it's time to eat. Let's go. I think it's still the want and the willingness of competition to go out there and perform and to try and build something that, and I want to say legacy, but I don't know if it's really going to be a legacy or not. Mm-hmm. My daughter has no ambition whatsoever
to be in printing,
of getting into printing. Wife, absolutely not. And so I don't know if it's the legacy, but it's wanting to, again, be able to create something and for a business that brings them more business. And I'll give you an example. The first year that we started, I met a guy who does he does carpet cleaning. And he just started up the business with his father-in-law, and they had, I believe, 2 vehicles at the time. And so I told him, we had talked about what we do, and he says, I really need to get my vehicles wrapped. I think that's a good, probably next step for my business to grow. So he said, well, I don't know if I can't afford to do a full wrap, but how about something partial? So I sat down with my designer. We came up with this design for this company, and we put it on. And so he really liked it, felt it was good, and left. And exactly 1 month later, he came back and he said, okay, well, I have that paid off. I've just bought my 3rd truck, and I'm going to get that wrapped. And it was like through 6, 7 vehicles after that time frame over the next year or two that I could really see what a difference this was making. And when you really worked hard at creating something that worked well for another organization to bring them more business, that was the solution.
That's awesome.
And when it comes to, I talked a little bit about, the nonprofits and the schools and, the churches. Well, obviously they're not out selling, but they're trying to attract, right? Attract more petitioners, more congregation. It may be more students. There's choices on schools, right, that you can make for your children. And so why do you go to one school versus another? Things like that. Same thing with nonprofits. They're just trying to, again, attract people to let them know here's the good that we're trying to do out there for the community. And creating something like that, I think, is what really drives me to want to continue to get up in the morning and think, yeah, this is going to be a fun project. I think I could really help here.
Yeah.
We're working on one now for a hotel that is in downtown Phoenix, and very old hotel, and they have new owners that have purchased it, and they're looking to kind of do this whole remodel and revitalization. And we had our first design call this afternoon, and it was really fun to bring the designers in, bring their kind of ideas, and start putting together concepts that we think will help you or their visitors or people that come to stay there at the hotel will walk away going, yeah, that was a great experience as far as the visual is concerned.
Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of other things that make up that experience.
Right.
We refer to them as experiential graphics, meaning that visual causes you to feel a certain way.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, you can take a good example might be that, you're having a very stressful day and you then see or look at a picture of, a stream going through a mountain, through a forest, and you're like, oh, yeah, I feel a little more relaxed.
Yeah.
A little more, okay, this is good. That's experiential graphics, and that's what we try to do. So it might be for a high school football team where you're just trying to get them pumped up, we're trying to get them excited about going out there and winning the game. Or something different along those lines where it might be in a pediatric office where you're just trying to get the kids to, it's okay, it's going to be fine. We'll walk out of here.
Yeah. What does success look like for you?
Good question. I mean, I feel...
Are you successful now?
I feel like I'm successful now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot more to do, but I feel like I'm in a happy place. I feel like I'm good, with what I've done, with where I'm at, with what I'm doing. But I'm always, again, trying to figure out, is there, how can I help more and do more out there for the community, do more out there for business. And it's just that, seeing when somebody comes and says, hey, this really helped bring out a bunch of business to mine or a bunch of new clients. I mean, that just is like my high.
That's awesome.
I'm just like, oh, this is great. What can we do tomorrow?
Right. If you were able to go back in time to one decision that you made, that if you could change that decision to change the trajectory of your life, is there a decision that you would change?
I didn't come from a family of entrepreneurs either. I mean, we were all pretty much, you work for a company or a corporation or whatever, a factory, and, 20 years, 25 years, and you're done. I wish at some point I would have maybe been introduced to the option of saying there's more than just freight and working for somebody else. And I think back on times where you really work your tail off and you're like, I don't think anybody noticed. I'll come home and I'm just like, I'm not sure what happened this week, Mary Jane. I'm just like, I don't think anybody noticed the effort that I really put in. I was like, I'd stay up at nights thinking about how can I change this, how can I make it better. And then you go in and you do that, and then it's like you wait for that
attaboy or whatever.
And sometimes it happens, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I wish that I had been more introduced to, trying something on your own. And I think that's probably the only thing that I look back on today.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great things, and I think it helped develop my character going through corporate, and the things that I learned, and the people that I worked with. But I think it would have been fun to try different things out there.
For sure.
And, that's kind of some of the things that I tell my daughter and younger kids today is that, again, you probably aren't going to be in that same thing. I mean, I look back and, when I graduated, or I was trying to get my degree in business, I had no idea what I was going to do with that.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, there I am in transportation. This is great.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, now I'm running a company that does printing.
Yeah.
Like, who would have thought? What happened?
It's pretty incredible. I mean, for me, I think about that because I've been in insurance for 30 years. I mean, well, actually this month is 29 years. So,
congrats.
June was 29 years. So anyways, it's whatever. But I've done a lot of different things in insurance, but I've always been in insurance, right? And there's been a few times where I've thought, oh, I'll do something else, but you're kind of almost attached to this ball and chain of responsibility, right? I have to
comfort zone.
Yeah, I've got to make this amount of money because it's been paying the bills and I can't take a step back and I can't do whatever. And then I think there comes a point where it's like, well, this is what I know how to do. So I've just continued to do it. Right. But it's interesting because I think about, two things: logistics or transportation and large format graphic printing, right? Completely opposite ends of the spectrum, if you will. But it wasn't like you went to school for it. It wasn't like you had a desire to do anything, right? You stepped in the logistics aspect of things and it was like, oh, this feels good. Oh, I'm making decent money. Oh, I'm doing good. I can compete in this and do the things that I want to do. And then when that door shut, it was almost like you were given a lifeline, meeting the guy that had done 20 years with DHL and all that stuff, where it's like now all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, it almost like it allows you to be comfortable in that decision. I think in my head, this is how I'm creating things. But I feel like all too often, we start doing something and it just becomes, it defines who we are. And we get stuck in that, well, this is what I do, right? And then we hold ourselves back from being able to do anything new because there's lack of knowledge, air quotes, which you think about it. When you got into transportation, you had no idea what that was about, right? You started moving boxes around in a warehouse. And then from there it went to wherever it went, So anyways, it fascinates me when we have these conversations, when I just start really, truly diving deep into it. I went to school for fitness and sport management. I wanted to do strength and conditioning for sports teams and rehabilitation. I needed to make money. My ex-brother-in-law said, have you ever thought about insurance? I'm like, no. What is that?
Right.
And then a couple months later, I'm in insurance and I'm doing claims. And 29 years later, I'm still in insurance. And I have this wealth of knowledge that is in here that I can use, right, to help serve other people. And I will tell you, there's nothing more rewarding than being able to just have a conversation with somebody and seeing the light go on in why they need what it is that I'm talking about. And I almost hear the same thing in you, where it's like, if set money aside and needing to make money to run and operate the business and support the family and all those other things, being able to help somebody to realize visually what their story can be to somebody without saying any words, I just think that's fascinating. And I think that is such a powerful thing to be able to go, yeah, you know what? I can help share this story. I think about when we did Class 24 with Gilbert Leadership, when we did our project at the Boys and Girls Club, and you made the tree for us, and that tree. Yeah, I just think about some of that stuff. And we did the window that had the window off into the forest, and those little things where you can take something very, we'll call it plain Jane, and create a feeling,
right?
Whatever that is, So.
Yeah, I think, again, just getting out of that comfort level, whether you're staying in that same career or whatnot, but, outside of that, you and I have known each other for, 10 years or so.
Oh, probably almost 15.
15. But, you've done a lot outside of that. You've been involved in the community. You've been involved in Gilbert. You talk about leadership. I was in class 23. You were in 24. There's a lot of times where, we just need to step out of our comfort zone and say, all right,
Yep.
Why don't you serve on this board?
Yeah.
Why don't you volunteer to do this? And you're like, that's not me. I don't know if I could do that,
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, you're doing that.
Yeah.
And you're leading and you're doing things that you may not have thought you're capable of. But unless you go out there and jump, step off onto that ledge and try that, you'll never know.
Yeah.
And some of the things that you can then, take from that as far as what you bring to the community and what you bring to others, I think is, can be pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think that to be able to inspire others to take that step, it's funny because I remember looking back, my initial involvement in the chamber, when I joined the chamber, and I was with AAA at the time, it was like, okay, there's no referral groups that are available for you because you're in insurance and there's 8 million insurance agents. We really don't have anywhere. You can't be an ambassador because you haven't been around long enough, all these different things. But we've got this thing called public policy. You can be involved in that. I'm like, well, what is that? Oh, well, we talk about politics. I'm like, well, that sounds interesting. I like talking politics.
Sure.
So I'll get in there. And they're talking these acronyms and all these different things. And I'm like, what the hell did I get myself into? But I told myself, look, I'm just going to give it 6 months. If at the end of 6 months, I still feel like I don't know what they're talking about, I'll step away, right? Through that. And then you encouraged me to get involved in Gilbert leadership. You're actually the one that convinced me to do that. And then I got into Gilbert leadership, and we had the public policy day, where you go and you pretend like you're the town council and all this other stuff. And it's like, it started fascinating me. And the more I was around it, the more I started understanding what was happening, and then I applied for planning commission. Actually, I applied for Parks and Recreation, and Jen Daniels says to me, Mayor Daniels says to me, why do you want to be in Parks and Rec? I said, well, because Leslie Knope is around someplace. Well, Leslie Knope was main character in Parks and Rec.
Right.
And that was funny. But anyways, in my head, it was funny. It was funny. It was actually, they laughed. So that was good. But then they're like, well, we think you'd be good on planning commission. I'm like, I have no idea what that is. Well, it's like building and development in it. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, you'll learn it. Come back in 2 months or whatever it was. We're going to be interviewing for that. I'm like, okay. So I went back, another interview, got on planning commission. Now I've been on planning commission for 6 years, I think, or 7 years, 6 years. I was the chairman for 2 years. I can run a meeting with my eyes closed and both hands behind my back. It's like that whole thing, right? It's like, right. I had no clue. And I think back to Les Presmick and going through his, Robert's Rules of Order. And, it's like
absolutely
how that runs,
right.
And running these meetings and keeping them moving. So anyways, it just fascinates me how you kind of have two sides of the same coin. One side is you don't know anything and you can take a step and try to learn something. You don't know anything and you can just stay in your comfort zone and just be there, live there, right? And it's those people that I admire the most, like yourself, that have taken that step and that opportunity to say, yeah, I know nothing about large format graphic printing, but I can talk to people. I love solving problems. Sure, let's throw $1 million at it. No, I'm just kidding. Not that much. But anyway, so what would you say is your brand?
Interesting. I guess my brand would be, the first word that comes to my mind is solution. I've just always been, as I talked about before, of creating that solution. But when you talk about the brand, it's the impact or the impression that you leave a client. So like with my employees, we want to be the ones that answer the phone. We want to be the ones that are really out there trying to help people with a solution. The end game in the brand is the experience with what you walk away with. It's like, wow. Everything from when I first called them to the design process to walking me through the production to understanding what the installation is going to look like through me paying the bill was all, I liked it.
Yeah.
And that's really what the brand is all about. And then you look at, okay, now that associates back to the company. So when they see Speed Pro Mesa Gilbert, then they go, oh, I know what that's all about. Yeah, that's a good feeling that comes across. It's not that much different than you look at branding for, Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Usually you're one or the other, right?
Yep.
But when you say the word, you can almost feel or taste, that Coke going down and it's on ice and it's cold and it's like refreshing and, and you walk away with this great experience because the things that the company does and stuff. That's the brand part of it. And so I guess the answer to your question is, I'm trying to create that experience so that when people walk away, they really feel good about dealing with us as an organization.
Awesome. What would you say to somebody looking at getting into your industry? What piece of advice would you give them?
I think the biggest is, again, surrounding yourself with good people, and that's, again, what I learned. I think back in corporate, I picked up on that fairly quickly is I want the people that are competitive. I want the ones that are out there really trying to make a difference. And then coming out onto my own, it's like getting out and saying, I still remember to this day, and probably for the first several months of thinking, I've been in corporate for 26 years running, making $1 million decisions daily on expenditures, et cetera. And, affecting businesses based on service levels and what we're going to deliver and what we're not going to deliver and making those decisions. They were huge. And then, to be able to, I guess, take from that thinking, okay, well, how hard can it be to run a business?
Yeah.
that's going to be a piece of cake, right? And,
Yeah,
and it's like,
absolutely.
yeah, that wasn't. So
Now all of a sudden those
it's like,
decisions are super hard.
now it's like, okay, well, who do you turn to within your company?
Yeah.
You?
Yeah.
You go look in the mirror and look for this, answers. But then you finally realize that it's really other owners that are going to help you make those good decisions. So then it's finding out which ones are like-minded in what you want to accomplish and can help you succeed. And at the same time, what can you do for them? And that's kind of what my mindset's been, I think, over the years, is continuing to look like, who can I surround myself with, the people that are going to do and help me, but then saying, how can I return that as well and help them grow and help them, get outside of their comfort level.
Yeah. Any books along the way that have, I don't know if you read. I should have asked. Do you read?
I don't. It's all comic books for the most part. But no, it is funny. I am a horrible reader in the fact that, like, I could start a business book and, a year or two later, I'm still in that same business book.
I'm right there with you.
I'm very good at reading when we go on vacation. And then maybe that's why I like to go to the beaches or whatever, because we just take a bunch of books with us. And we'll just sit out on the beach. We'll get up in the morning, sit out there in a Chase lounge and soak up the experience of the ocean and the beach and just read.
That's awesome.
And I'll go through books like crazy. But then I come home and it's like, oh my gosh, I just
take the time to sit down and read.
There's so much more, like, I should be out there doing this. I should be out walking the dog. I should be out exercising. I should be doing this and that and the other. So yeah, it is very difficult for me to kind of get through some books. But there's been, a few out there that, I've kind of resonated. I guess I take a little bit and pieces from each one and try to use that. One of the interesting ones that I actually am reading right now is Buy Back Your Time.
Yep.
And I started it actually, again, months ago. And I'm about halfway through, but I'm continuing to, and I really have gotten, it's a very interesting book in the fact that it really talks about how to focus your mindset in your business on number one, the things you enjoy.
Yep.
The things that you're good at,
Yep.
and the things that will make this business more successful and grow.
Yeah.
And when you can do that and delegate the other either to employees or say, hey, I need a bookkeeper, I need somebody else outside of what I do, and hire those people to do it, you think about that time savings that you've now incurred. And now it frees me up to do this and that, and the next thing.
Yeah.
And as well, it may come down to where it just frees you up to do your personal stuff.
Right.
To where I've got more time to go out and walk
Whatever
the dog.
it is,
whatever.
I love that book. I finished that book a few months ago, I guess. I don't remember, Jeff or Andrew or somebody recommended it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to read this. Yeah, I mean, it was such a, I want to say profound, but it's not profound from I'd never thought about this. It makes sense.
Right.
It would put it into a very sensical way of thinking about the whole thing and being able to. I mean, you and I've had conversations like, okay, take out the $10 an hour job, right? If you give $10 an hour job to somebody else and you can focus on the $50 an hour job, isn't that better?
Right.
It's like, all day long.
Yeah.
Is definitely a hard switch to make. Hiring that first employee where you're like, oh God, I got to do this. All right, last question. This is a hard one.
Okay.
You're in the front of a gymnasium of 18-year-olds. You have 60 seconds to inspire them. What do you say?
Good question. I like this, and I think I've heard it on several of your other podcasts as well. But I think the biggest is to, don't be afraid. Go out there and chase your dream. Try different things. It's like sports. I mean, unless you go out there and you try basketball and you figure out, okay, well, I'm not very good at that. Well, try baseball and, try music, whatever it might be. Expose yourself to as much as possible out there, and then that will help define, what you enjoy, what you like to do. Had I not been exposed to, cooking, for example, I might not be, enjoy the cooking that I do today.
And here I thought you were going to say Jesuit priests.
Oh, Jesuit. Okay, let's not go down that road. This was going along very well until you started down that avenue. So we'll put that one aside. But no, so, but it's really to give yourself that opportunity to get out there and again take the help of others as well. I mean, kids have it so much harder, I think, today than we did.
Yeah.
There's so much different, you look at social media, you look at the phones, you look at all these other things that can make it rough to be a kid.
Yeah.
And, you and I grew up on Legos and, G.I. Joes and,
Stretch Armstrong
and going out there doing armies in the yard and all kinds of stuff with, things like that. And, today it's just making sure that we can kind of expose those kids to some of those opportunities and say that there are things out there that you may not have been exposed to that you might enjoy. And,
for sure.
So.
For sure. Where can people find you, and where can people find Speed Pro Mesa Gilbert?
Yeah, so we have our studio. We've been there since we opened up 13 years ago. We're over on McQueen, between Baseline and Guadalupe. It's kind of a light industrial area, so it's not like a walk-in, if you will. But I'm always open and to come in and show people around and whatnot. A large part of the community as well. But the other thing I want to mention real quick is that one of the things that I enjoy, I think, about being a small business owner is really listening to the stories. And your podcast brings out a lot of that. Is like it's been fascinating to listen to people and you think that maybe you had troubles and it's like, holy smokes, I can't believe what this person went through and where they are today. And it's just amazing. And it's so inspiring as well, to be a part of that. But I probably enjoy, what we refer to as the one-to-ones, where you sit down over a cup of coffee or, a lunch and it's like, why on earth would you get involved in insurance of all the things that you could do? You're having fun jumping out of helicopters and stuff like that and fighting forest fires. Then
True story.
Next thing you know, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do insurance. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
So listening to those stories and then what you've done to become and get to where you are today, I think it's just unbelievable.
Well, thank you. Well, I appreciate that. And it has been fun. And I love doing the podcast. But I love to do the one-on-ones, and getting people to share their stories, because I do truly believe that as entrepreneurs, and I say the backdrop's different, storyline's a lot the same, right? A lot of us have gone through things where it's like you're in a position where you're getting laid off, and it's like I go back to another corporation and start my retirement all over, start my days off all over. I've got to, I'm subject to what they say, how they say it, what I wear, where I go, when I got to be there. And it's interesting because for me, like even starting the business, I don't thankfully have to do this anymore, but where I was working 16, 17 hours a day, because it was me.
Sure.
And I just had so much to do. I've worked more for less in the last 7 years than I've ever done in my life.
Sure.
Right. But it's been more rewarding.
Absolutely.
And so being able to have conversations with people similar, and I don't know if it's commiserate or whatever that word would be that would go in that space, but just it's fun. And obviously I love people, but thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, everybody that comes on gets a gift. You get a gift.
Oh, thank you.
And you get a gift, like Oprah used to say, you get a gift, and you get a gift, and you get a gift. Everybody gets a challenge coin for coming on. It's a Above and Beyond podcast challenge coin. And then you get the tumbler, which is I went above and beyond. That's been engraved by Rocks Ink Calligraphy with your name. So you can use it for whatever you choose, your beverage of choice. But I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
That's been enjoyable. I appreciate you having me. Thank you. This is Eric Reber, and I went above and beyond. Stories we share beyond the fairways, friendships grow in APN's embrace, opportunities flow. No happy talking, just real deals, authentic connections, the kind that heals. From Palm Springs to Pine Top Grace, APN's network spans every place. Above Pond Network, we're going above and beyond, reaching new heights in networking realms.
work, we truly thrive.
Like, share, and subscribe to Above and Beyond, where excellence meets elevation. Elevate your mindset, one episode at a time.